So guys, the crypto markets are still trading sideways right now. We did see some positive news from Trump earlier today talking about the EU tariffs and being extended into July, which is causing the US market futures to shoot up, which is positive, guys. Everything is seeing a little bit of relief moving into Monday, but tomorrow is Memorial Day. We have some key events happening this week, and right now I want to walk you through all of that information and why everything might be pumping or dumping in the next few days, next few weeks. Right now, guys, there's mixed sentiment in the markets, but with the news that is coming out, the markets are starting to look a little bit positive, but everyone is still speculative on what exactly is going to happen. So with all that being said, if you're new to my channel, check out the rest of my content. I keep you guys updated on the day-to-day events, price action on Bitcoin, Ethereum, altcoins, how liquidity is shifting, and exactly how you need to position yourself. Right now, guys, a lot of people are getting mixed up in the sentiment in terms of when to sell and when to buy, and right now it's all revolved around the 4-year cycle theory, and right now a lot of people are making a lot of mistakes, and I want to walk you through the perspective on why you should not be capitulating your bag of altcoins, especially for altcoin investors right now, because altcoins are pretty much pumping and dumping, but a lot of assets are creating higher lows. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the information that is going into the markets right now, the price action that we're seeing, and what you need to be aware of. So guys, like how I said, the crypto markets are trading sideways, but we are starting to see a little bit of recovery due to the news events that we were seeing around Trump and the EU tariffs and the delay that is starting to take place. We talked about the deal that was previously discussed and how it was talked about on a good faith basis. So right now, this is positive news, but for how long? That's the question. We're starting to see a little bit of recovery with Bitcoin currently sitting at around 109,457, moving into Monday with the US futures looking good. This is quite positive, but Monday is a holiday. We have some key events happening, so we're going to be going over this. But right now, price action is looking quite positive. Ethereum is also seeing a little bit of recovery. While we are seeing a little bit of a retracement, this is still positive news. Looking at higher lows and moving into the market opening, I could be seeing Ethereum, rip back up to that 2600 region. Currently, we're starting to see altcoins follow the same price action around Ethereum, so altcoins are starting to see a little bit of recovery in the markets, but for how long? That's the real question, guys, and I'm keeping you guys updated with all that information. Bitcoin dominance is trading sideways. We're starting to see a little bit of a downside of Bitcoin dominance, but we're also starting to see a recovery with exactly the price action in that 65% zone. Right now my chart is looking a little bit weird, but you can see that right now everything is trading sideways, but moving into the weekly opening, this is going to be super key. USDT dominance is also starting to crash down, pointing to the fact that people are starting to feel a little bit more confident. Whenever it was Friday, we saw USDT dominance see a lot of recovery, ripping back up, but moving into this week, a lot of people are starting to pour back into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and altcoins in general. Now, this week, guys, we have some key events happening. Well, tomorrow is a holiday, Memorial Day in the United States. So I'm in the United States. It's going to be a holiday. I do not have to work tomorrow. Let me know exactly where you guys are down in the comment section. But tomorrow, the markets are not going to be opening up. So it's going to be a little bit of more trading sideways based off of exactly more news events from the US and the Trump administration. But two is going to be more information that is actually going to be coming out on Tuesday, the CB consumer confidence data. From there, we're actually going to move into a little bit more important information on Wednesday and Thursday with the Fed meeting minutes and the US Q1 2025 GDP data. This is going to let us know exactly how the US economy is performing, inflation, and a few other aspects, which is moving into the April PCE inflation data, which is really going to let us know based off of predictions and actual percentage zones of what is happening within the US economy. 6 is going to be the MI consumer sentiment data as well, which is going to be happening on Friday. So this is also super key to understand that the inflation data and the MI consumer sentiment data is going to be happening on Friday when the markets close. So whether the markets are going to be closing positive or negative is going to be super key for risk assets like Bitcoin and Ethereum. So we really do have a short but busy week ahead. So right now, moving into exactly what's causing a lot of the positive sentiment, it's really President Trump and the delay on the 50% EU tariffs until July 9th. But as a result, guys, the 10-year note yield is instantly rising above that 4.5% zone. And trade deals are no longer containing the bond market, which is not good for the Trump administration. This kind of moves us into, Trump's perspective on exactly what is, going on. Right now, rising interest rates remain President Trump's biggest problem. And right now, the Fed refuses to cut rates, and the trade deals are driving yields even higher. So something must change, or the 10-year note yield will hit 5%. So this is super important, and a lot of other economies like Japan's market is starting to crash. So we're starting to see liquidity have to pour back into the market, and we're really, I guess, curious on exactly what's going to be happening with the Fed and if we're going to be seeing rate cuts. Moving into the perspectives around the market, though, right now altcoins and crypto have corrected due to the macroeconomic factors, especially with the trade war that is currently taking place, and a few other different things that we saw with Benjamin Cohen with the Golden Cross in previous price action in 2023. But right now, guys, it's really important to really understand this perspective. It's not easy to hold altcoins through the periods of downwards momentum. It's worse to be selling, though, just before the cycle actually kicks in. But a lot of people are really, uncertain on what is going to be happening. But if you look at the price action, it's all based off of exactly what the big institutions are doing. And this is moving into Crypto Michel's next perspective on the reason why the markets are consolidating. And the reason why is people tend to believe the double top 2021 scenario. And however, this time the macroeconomic tables are completely different from Bitcoin and the price action that we're currently seeing. His great perspective is exactly what the rates were at with Bitcoin and whenever it peaked out. And Bitcoin reached 69,000 on 1% interest rates. Right now, guys, Bitcoin is currently sitting at around 109,000, not 112, but interest rates are currently sitting at around 5%. So once we start to see that relief, could you imagine what Bitcoin is going to go to? It's going to be freaking crazy, but you got to have a long-term perspective. If you don't, you're really going to miss out on what is potentially possible for altcoins and risk assets in general. But right now, also, retail is selling, institutions are buying, and that's why this cycle is called the institutional cycle. The retail will come in way too late. I'd rather want to follow the institutions instead of retail, as institutions always win and decide market movements for Bitcoin and for, all assets in general. But it's because, big institutions should just buy, and they're willing to hold, and they're willing to, wait for retail to just sell out their bags and for liquidity to pour back into it once we start to see the proper economic events and everything just, slowly roll into line. As a reference, we start to see a little bit of comparison to the dot-com bubble, which a lot of people are talking about. And right now, there's a lot of different perspectives on exactly what's going to be happening in the next few weeks. But the best thing to understand, guys, is right now we're trading sideways, and it's due to exactly the macroeconomic events. And if you're not willing to hold out dollar cost average and wait for liquidity to move back, you are not going to make it. And I hope you are someone that is willing to dollar cost average, wait for that price action, and keep up with key events like exactly what we're doing on this channel. But people like Benjamin Cohen that have been here for multiple cycles are also talking about exactly the bond and yields, and right now the percentages that we're hitting. And he's even talking about how right now we're starting to hit back to that 5% zone, and we're probably going to hit it much sooner than later. And right now, it's all based off of what's going to be happening with Trump. So moving into next week, this is super key, but this is not looking too hot for the U.S. markets. We're also seeing Justin Bennett stay with the same perspective around Bitcoin and Ethereum and the 10 to 15% pullback that we usually see, especially with the Golden Cross that we talked about on a previous episode. So right now, everyone's just waiting to see exactly what's going to be happening with Bitcoin and Ethereum. CryptoCon also talked about how Bitcoin hasn't even had a huge surge, and right now it's really due to the fact that retail hasn't returned back. But like previously said with Crypto Michel, this is an institutional run. People are going to be moving back into the markets before it's too late. So people like you and me that are already allocated, guys, we're going to be way better off than people that are just jumping into the markets by the time everything is shooting up and it's too late to get that crazy return. But like I said, the crypto markets are trading sideways. So everyone's really wondering how the crypto markets are going to be opening up on Tuesday whenever we actually start to see some data pour in and everyone starts to have a better understanding on what's going to be happening. Right now, my portfolio is starting to see a little bit of recovery. You can see on the 24-hour, a few of these assets are ripping up, but at the end of the day, we are still trading sideways. So this is where I tell you, we're creating higher lows, but you got to be willing to dollar cost average, keep up with the price action, keep up with the news events, and just really see what's going on. But swiping everything to the side, guys, at the end of the day, we do not know exactly what's going to be happening. Could we be trading sideways for the next, few weeks, next month, next 2 months? Yes, possibly. But that just gives you and me more time to actually dollar cost average and potentially, get better prices for multiple assets. We need to see exactly what Trump is going to be doing, especially with yields starting to shoot up. Everyone is starting to see, a recession percentage start to, ramp up as well, which is not good. But if we start to see a little bit of, positive news with inflation, the consumer data that's coming out this week, and overall with the GDP data as well, we can start to see a little bit of recovery, and potentially even the Fed cut rates, especially if we start to see inflation run up much more faster than anticipated. But this is where, guys, you really need to start keeping up with the price action, the news events, and everything that has an effect on your altcoin portfolio. And on this YouTube channel, we do all of that. So if you're new to my channel, go ahead and check out the rest of my content, guys. I keep you guys updated on the day-to-day events, price action on Bitcoin, Ethereum, altcoins, how liquidity is shifting, and pretty much everything else in between. I am tripping up on my works today. I drilled into my oil pan and pretty much fixed all that on my 2001 Mazda Miata. It was a lot of work. I'm super tired, super tired right now, but keeping up with all this information, guys, is super important. So even with me working on my vehicle, doing all these different things, it's super important to understand that if you want to make it with altcoins and overall see the, send to Valhalla, you got to be willing to understand how liquidity shifts and what is causing everything to pump and dump. So stay tuned. I keep you guys updated with all the information. If you guys have any questions or suggestions, drop them down below. Tomorrow I'm going to be dropping the video with pretty much full aspect around day trading, how I got started, how I pretty much view the day. I'm even going to do a little bit of live trading on my phone because I have two phones now. Where is it? I got two phones now. I'm recording on one phone and I got the other phone right here. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of live trading while I'm recording so that you guys can see, the legitness behind it. So stay tuned for that. If you guys have any questions, suggestions, drop them down below. Don't capitulate your portfolio, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Peace.